What is one profession where you don't want to hear them genuinely say, oops, on the job?
Story 1. Presidential candidate, apparently. Perry. And I will tell you, it is 3 agencies of government, when I get there, that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see. Paul, you need 5. Perry. Oh, 5. Okay, so commerce, education, and the, unknown. EPA? Perry. EPA. There you go. Hardwood. Seriously, is the EPA the one you were talking about? Perry. No, sir. No, sir. We're talking about the agencies of government. The EPA needs to be rebuilt. There's no doubt about that. But you can't name the third one. Well, the third agency of government, I would do away with education, the commerce, commerce, and let's see, I can't. The third one, I can't. Sorry. Oops. In case you're wondering, it really is that uncomfortable to watch. On the other hand, he became Trump's energy secretary. Ironic, really, considering the third agency that he wanted to get rid of was energy. The one agency he couldn't remember. It's so crazy that we went from stuff like this, the Howard Dean scream, or Gary Johnson's Aleppo mishap ruining campaigns, to Trump. I haven't actually seen this exchange, so I don't know if he was Southern or not. I made some creative choices, and I hope that you all stand with me. And thank you, unnamed contributor, for your help. Oh, you're welcome. Also, I know some of you are younger watching this. If you're not familiar with the Howard Dean scream, just look up Howard Dean scream and get ready for just seeing a politician lose his marbles for like 2 seconds. It's great. Story 2. So I did hear someone say oops while I was getting a needle aspiration biopsy for thyroid cancer, and they were looking to see where to go in with an ultrasound. The doctor takes a stab and the radiology tech goes, oops, nope, that's her jugular. And they just kind of laughed and shrugged and kept going, so apparently I was the only one who found that untoward. Well, I am glad I didn't read stories like this before I had my own FNA biopsy. Endocrinology numbed my neck up real well and got samples really quickly. In my case, it did turn out to be cancer, but I got rid of it. I hope the same for you if it was a positive biopsy. Got diagnosed in 2010, 3 surgeries, and 2 radiations later, I'm clear as far as I know. I'm happy to hear you're good too. I've had like 4 FNAs and I'm resistant to lidocaine, so they all hurt like hell. The first one was the worst because they did a core 2, which felt like getting a hole punched through my throat. Yikes. Mine seems so easy in comparison, lol. For such a small little organ though, the thyroid causes so much trouble for a lot of people. I didn't feel bad about kicking mine out, that's for sure. I think we'll definitely see a lot of repeats of no one wants to hear a doctor say oops, but I am at least very glad to hear that both of these posters turned out okay. Cancer's no joke, and I'm always happy to see when people manage to pull through.
Story 3. I have 2 personal experiences that fit this, but maybe weren't that bad. One, I was getting a colonoscopy, and the anesthesiologist came in to go over the process with me and dropped his clipboard, making papers go flying everywhere. He drops down to pick them up and huffs under his breath, this is just one of those days. I was like, great, I'm gonna die. 2, I had to get a wisdom tooth taken out. The dentist comes in wearing flip-flops, shorts, a Hawaiian shirt, and is limping, plops down on his seat and goes, here we go. It totally looked like he woke up, hung over his balls, came to operate on my mouth. The best dental experience I've ever had was an old guy in a Hawaiian shirt who was acting kind of similarly. That's the only effing dentist who has ever actually fully numbed my mouth before working on my teeth. I'm extremely resistant to local anesthetics, unfortunately. If I'm gonna be effed up while I do this, he's gonna be effed up while I do this. I really don't want to listen to any screaming while I work my way through this hangover. Story 4. Bungee jump operator. No idea what the actual job title is, but I'm sure you know what I mean. In my intro to engineering class in college, one team project everyone worked on was a bungee jump simulation, where we had to calculate the correct length of cord needed for the attached weight to drop from a height, get close to the floor, but not touch the floor based on the stretchiness of the cord or whatever. I changed majors, so I don't remember the details. Only one group didn't have their weight hit the floor. I knew at the end of that project that I would never be an engineer, a bungee jump operator, or a person who goes bungee jumping. Let me guess, everyone forgot to take momentum into their calculations? I don't even remember. It was so long ago, LOL. It was most likely a combo of bad data, college freshman stupidity, unclear instructions from the professor, and no one knowing how to use Excel, which was what we were using for all our calculations. Oddly, I'm really good at Excel now, and I wonder if I could solve that problem if I ever came upon my notes for the class. I have a feeling it was unnecessarily overcomplicated. Edit. I met my husband in this class and just asked him. He continued on and is now an engineer, and he's pretty sure everyone forgot about momentum and everyone got their data from static loads, which was wrong for estimating the calculations for a dropped load. But we're both kinda hazy on the details because freshman year was, sadly, quite a while ago.
I've got to say, if I was a bungee jump operator, I would constantly be tempted where when people were just getting ready to go, the moment they started to tip over, just then they'd be like, oops. I don't think I actually would do that. I'm sure some people would absolutely panic and get hurt, but it's funny to think about.
Story 5. This isn't as critical as some jobs, but when I was in school for computer IT in the late 90s, our teacher always emphasized that if we ever have to make a house call to fix a person's computer, never say oops. People freak out. That said, I never want to hear the guy in charge of hitting the nuclear launch button say oops. I have a friend who's a dentist, and he always joked that he never says oops when he makes a mistake. He just says rinse. Whenever they accidentally make you bleed, they just say, it's because you don't floss enough. Before I got braces when I was a teenager, my bottom teeth were very close together with some of them being pushed forward due to being too close. To remedy this, they took sandpaper and sanded between my teeth to file them down and create more space. As a result, I was bleeding everywhere because they rubbed sandpaper between my teeth. You're bleeding because you need to floss more, is what they told me. Story 6. Nuclear missile operator. Oddly enough, people have said oops a surprising amount, and nothing really happened. Countries, mostly the US, have lost a terrifying amount of nuclear weapons. The US specifically is not good with nuclear weapons. One missile silo was reported as being wide open, and the operators were asleep. They ordered a pizza, and the pizza guy just found a nuclear weapon which he could have gotten a friend and launched. John Oliver's piece on it. The US is much more transparent than the USSR or even modern-day Russia. The USSR and Russia have been known to and have lied many, many times about their weapons of mass destruction. If a missile silo was left wide open in the USSR, you were certainly not allowed to report on it on the news. Likewise for China. Saying the US specifically is not good with nuclear weapons without qualifying that we don't have data from any other nuclear weapons states is misleading. Ascribing confidence in Russia like that is the first sign they've never been in or have dealt with Russia. Story 7. A medical specialist, a good friend, had to have a spinal tap for intracranial hypertension. She had no one to go with her and she was very scared, so I went with her so she wouldn't be alone. As the neurology registrar put the needle in, he said, "Oh crap," under his breath, but loud enough that we both heard. My friend suddenly says, "Is it supposed to feel like it's in my lungs?" The registrar looked at his supervisor with a look of sheer panic. Luckily, my friend was lying face down so she couldn't see what was happening. The supervising neurologist took over, pulled the needle out, and put it in correctly, at which point my friend let out an awful cry, and the procedure was done within a couple minutes. I told her what happened the next day, figured no point scaring her while she needed to relax and recover. Well, in this case, you've had a combination lung and spinal tap, so while not strictly normal, it is normal for this particular procedure.
So again, we have, a medical specialist, doctor, something in that field. I do have to say, I think if a doctor, a surgeon, whatever, says oops, it's a mistake that's like, oh, oops. You know, it's not that bad. It's when a doctor suddenly goes like dead quiet and is like mumbling to a nurse. That's much more concerning, I think.
Story 8. A tattoo artist. The one I worked for would say it all the time just to mess with the client. 2 O's and Bob, right? You're goddamn right there is. Story 9. A mime. Touché. Underrated response. It's literally the top response on here. Story 10. I legit had a dentist say this one time while he was working on my teeth. I immediately tensed up and tried asking what happened, but my mouth was forced open, and as soon as he heard me say something, he told me to try not to talk, and so I had no choice but to go back to just being still. For some reason, once he was all done, I either forgot to ask what happened, or I intentionally decided not to. But yeah, that was incredibly frightening, even if it seems nothing major came of it. Honestly, they probably just dropped something in your mouth and didn't want you to swallow it or aspirate it. It happens. Accurate. Dang it, I knew today was the wrong day to bring Francis, my pet spider, with me while I was working. Story 11. Surgeon. You know what they say, surgery is just stabbing someone back to life. This is why you aren't a surgeon, Darla. Who says I'm not? Story 12. IT. Oops and IT can mean anything from oops, accidentally reset the wrong password to oops, accidentally pushed a patch requiring a reboot and now every server is rebooting. Source, IT person. Or in the case of Tom Scott, accidentally making thousands of irreversible changes to a database. The 1 second is the second after you make a terrible mistake. The second when you realize what you just did and that there's nothing you can do about it. Tom Scott, 2020. Story 13. Laser eye removal person. Edit. Oops. Bro, after I got my eyes removed with lasers, I could finally shoot sharks out of my eyes. Ah, yes, I hate when someone is removing my eyes with lasers and they mess that up. What?
Oh my god, these people are reading it all wrong. Laser eye removal, I got my eye removed with lasers. Folks, it's removing laser eyes. This is how they helped out Cyclops in the X-Men so he stopped blasting people when he looked at their boobies. I should have thought that whole joke through before I said it, but I guess it's here.
Story 14. Before it was automated, the guy operated railway junctions remotely. Too much Thomas and Friends have taught me that the signal man will usually mess up once. Story 15. Barber. Well, hair grows back and ears don't. Happened to me when I was like 13. Luckily, it was just a sliver. Unluckily, it was my good ear and not the pointy elf ear that could have used a little off the top. Yep, that's the same reason my mom stopped cutting my hair when I was a kid. The screams and blood were pretty traumatizing. For her, too.
I'm going to go ahead and say that this one might be the winner because for a lot of like the big ones, and oops, it's generally not something all that serious. A doctor is not going to accidentally cut open your artery and be like, oops. He's going to be like, oh crap, stat, this, that, you know. But if a barber goes, oops, that's a mistake that you're wearing for months. They'll like, yeah, no, I like this one.
Story 16. Chef when they're chopping things with a knife. It was bad. A good professional chef knife can be sharp as hell. I have a good one, but I'm afraid to use it. Use it, it will change cooking for you. You can just end up with more protein in your dinner. Story 17. A pilot. Attention passengers, whoops, looks like I picked up the wrong week to quit amphetamines. Looks like I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. Story 18. Nuclear engineer when they're working in the control room of a nuclear reactor. It's not 3, Rotgen, it's 15,000. Story 19. Airplane pilot, surgeon, prostitute. One of those is unique. Haven't read that one on these questions. What scenario would a prostitute say, oops? I don't need sleep, I need answers. Oops, see you in 9 months. Story 20. Bomb Squad. There's a well-known story about that. A guy asked a bomb squad guy how stressful his job was. He responded with, "It really ain't stressful at all. You see, I'm either right or it's very suddenly no longer my problem." They don't usually have time to vocalize it. In fairness, when we say, oops, it's usually a good thing. Or someone is now an amputee.
Has it been long enough where the whole idea of, like, A bomb squad guy wearing a shirt that it says, "If you see me running, try to keep up." Have people forgotten that that already existed, and could I pass that off as my own joke? Oops.
Story 21. I heard my dentist say oops. I was having a tooth removed, and before he even started, the dumb butt injected his own finger with the anesthetic. Still went ahead with the tooth extraction, though. I'll laugh my butt off. Look up Tim Conway Dentist. The skit was inspired by an incident like yours. Story 22. My dad cut my hair to about an inch long when I was about 8 years old. He was trimming the front of my hair, and I heard him say, "Oops." Big, square, bald chunk that connected to my forehead. LOL. Story 23. Dentist. Root canal on the wrong tooth. Story 24. A mohel. For all you Gentiles out there, a mohel is the person who performs the bris, traditional Jewish circumcision. Mohel, zero tolerance for mistakes, though. I hear if they miss, they get the sack. You know what you call a budget circumcision? A ripoff. Story 25. So no one is going to say it? Fine. Okay. Police officer. LOL, like they say oops. They just leave the report mostly blank and defect and deny until the press moves on.
The only time that a cop is going to say oops is if it's, "Oops, looks like you're under arrest." I'm sure not all cops, but, yeah.
Story 26. A doctor. I mean, if his pen falls down and I hear oops, I guess it's okay. What if it falls on your organs? A pen? On my testicle? Story 27. Roller coaster technician. Always take a few rusty bolts with you to the theme park. On the initial climb, pull one out and tell the person next to you it just fell out of their seat. That's the oldest trick in the book, but it's brilliant because no one expects it, especially when you drop the bolt onto the track by accident while upside down and derail the carriage. Wait, what? Story 28. A magician, more specifically when they have finished performing that one trick where it looks like they are cutting a body in half. Story 29. LASIK. Accidentally cutting up my eye, then cutting the other one to make it look even. Story 30. Air traffic controller. Story 31. Doctor doing your prostate exam. Story 32. Skyscraper window washer.
Are you confusing the word oops with the word ah?
Story 33. Pilot. Story 34. Wax specialist. Story 35. Neurosurgeon or ophthalmic surgeon. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.